we got to get something straight here.
Okay.
Or crooked. I don't know which. But
What is
a lot of people think we're married.
Oh.
You know, I mean, but your husband is here.
It's a whodunit.
Yeah. And my husband is here.
I know. We got two husbands.
So we're lovers, though, really. Yeah. We love each other.
We'll see. We're definitely soul relatives.
That's right.
We're part of a soul repertory company,
right.
for sure.
There's one more thing I want to do before you start bombarding me with questions.
Absolutely.
I want to recognize two people here who were the executive producers of the pilot Limestone Gumption. Martha Carson and Randy Carson. I want you to stand up. Take the helping of the network. And I also want to introduce my agent, Dean Christek, who came all the way down. Yeah, I'm all yours.
All right. Well, I have so many questions. First of all, I absolutely love this book. We're not going to have any spoilers.
I didn't tell her to say that, I swear.
I know it is. It's a page turner, and we don't want to give any spoilers away tonight, but it is a murder mystery. So it's interesting getting you to read stuff. So we're going to read, I'm going to have you read a few passages, but nothing that gives anything away, really. But I want to start at the beginning, which is, how old were you? Not the beginning of the book, but the beginning of you.
Oh.
How old were you when you started writing?
Well, I was about 7, 8. I made up these fiction stories because I was trying to get away from a crazy house where people were unconscious and dysfunctional, and it was the only way as a little kid that I could find some peace. And it became my best friend, and always was. But of course, you know, as a fiction writer, you don't make a whole lot of money starting off. So I went through the academic route and started writing books, which I love to do. I love writing for Forbes. It's just a passion I have, because you can really be creative with nonfiction. But the first book I wrote was Limestone Gumption, and I know people have questions about this. They really never got off the ground because the publisher went belly up. And so this is a new book, thanks to Dean. He's sold actually a 2-book deal, and they wanted a 3-book. And I wasn't sure I'd still be alive to write the 3rd one, so I didn't agree to do it.
Oh.
But I will. I probably will. I'm going to wait and see. But anyway, that's how I started.
That's good.
It saved me, and it still does. It's like it takes me to another place, and I love it.
It's something that, you know, a lot of writers want to write. We have a lot of friends in our midst. A reporter here. My husband's a writer, but some people have a fear of the blank page. But almost, you're amazing. Like, you're so prolific. He just told me that he did 27 stories for Forbes last month. One of them was for me, actually the month before. Did a story for Forbes just before my game show launched, which was so sweet because it was helped promote it. And that was amazing. Just from an interview, we talked on the phone or on Zoom. And then next thing you know, it was so fantastic. And I've done that, and it's not easy to get it all.
You know, you're incredibly intimidating.
I am intimidating? Oh my God.
I just realized that all of a sudden. How many of you played Balderdash before? She invented it.
I co-invented it when I was 5 years old. in the 80s. It was amazing. Yeah, it's something. It just happened. But we're talking about you though. So one other question, and this is kind of a long question though, but or maybe not, which is, how autobiographical would you say this book is? Like percentage wise, or can you just tell us?
Well, like most fiction writers, it's partly made up, and there's always some truth in it. One of the things I did realize after I'd written the book, looking back, there's a lot of unconscious process that happens when you're writing fiction. And every character in the book is me, or a part of me. I don't know how many of you are familiar with internal family systems therapy. We talk about parts. They're all parts of me.
Like a dream, like in a dream, you are everyone in the dream. Yeah.
And there's the character, Brad Pope. Is Brad Pope here tonight, by the way? Oh. He told me he was going to be here. There is here's what's so weird. A guy who lives not on the Suwannee River, but on the Suwannee River is named Brad Pope, which is the name of my character.
Amazing.
And his grandmother is named Gigi. Same.
I see.
He told me he was gonna be here tonight. I haven't met him, but it's amazing how, I don't know if I dipped into the collective unconscious. I don't know what happened, but a lot of writers talk about this. They'll have people call them and say, you just wrote my life story. And there's some other interesting things that I hope I get a chance to talk about that have happened.
Actually, I was, one of the passages that struck me was literally the beginning of the book. Well, there's a prologue that sets kind of the murder, but that I wanted you to read just the very beginning of chapter 1. And one thing I loved about this book is your description and the way you kind of set the stage here. So I just read a bit of that.
How far do you want me to read?
Maybe to the next page. Do I have enough?
You've got an end.
Oh yeah, so organized. Completely unlike me, but for this.
In my opinion, Big Jake got what was coming to him. That might sound cold-hearted for a psychologist, but down here on the Suwannee, there's an old saying, evil carries the seeds of its own destruction. I stood on a boulder peering down into the mouth of Suwannee Springs. Needles of sunlight shot through overhanging cypress branches and danced across the translucent green waters below. My navy reflection mingled with schools of golden orange sunfish and grass carp darting near the sandy bottom. Brad Pope, I mused, what the hell are you doing back in this godforsaken town? I thought I'd put the past behind me, at least I told myself I had, but my childhood grief had strapped its tentacles around my heart. I lost myself in work, unsuccessfully chiseling away at the past that held me in its grasp. Pressing down on my fingers like a lump of coal produces a diamond, I produced a book, my shining gem, Finding Your Resilience On, a love letter to my survival. Grief doesn't release you until you face it and befriend it. My training as a psychologist taught me that. That's what brought me home. Grief and rage, a chance to heal, and a chance to settle the score with my daddy, who snatched me away from my boyhood that I so dearly loved. Watching the river roll by, catfishing on moonlit nights, exploring the riverbanks for Indian artifacts. To this day, White Cross, perched high on the east bank of the Suwannee River, was a sleepy town with a population of 1,700, one caution light, and a new Walgreens that had crept to the edge of town. Sorry. Locals were online and computer savvy, but if asked about blackberries, they'd think cobbler, not wireless. And townsfolk usually died of natural causes, not murder, until now.
Yeah. See? Basically sort of set the stage for what the book is. And it's interesting because, that's one of my questions. Is Brad Pope going to be the protagonist in all 3 books?
Yes.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Okay, so he is a psychiatrist and but also in a way a detective. Like he's a sleuth. He's a sleuth. So it's great. It's like, they're Brad Pope mysteries. So did Brad Pope just walk in? So somebody came in late. I wondered if it was the real Brad Pope.
Real mystery.
Are you the
Where's
real Brad
Brad Pope?
No, okay, he's not here.
Okay.
Come on down.
By the way, his name changes in this book, but I'm not going to tell you why. You'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was wondering if did you grow up in a small town? How much of Brad is in your childhood? I mean, we kind of got into that again. It's a mixture, right? But were you part of a small town? Because the town is very much a character in this. Yeah. The town and the river, I would say, are characters in the book, right? And I wondered if I don't know that much about your past, so I think the audience might want to know.
Tell all these people.
Yeah, I know. I was like, are you okay with me asking you about your childhood? It's a little switch for a shrink, right?
Well, I did. I'm so sorry.
Oh, drink some water.
This is pollen. I've been doing this
the
all
pollen.
week.
The deadly pollen. It's the murder weapon. No. Okay, sorry. Okay, so actually I wanted to know.
I did grow up in a small town.
You did grow up in a small town. And there's a great character in this book called Voodoo Sally. And she's kind of like a marsh person. Did anybody see or read
The marsh.
what's it called?
Where
The Crawdads Sing. So I've had a little flavor of that and that character. Is she based on someone you know, or is that a cobbler
Well,
character to you?
maybe here's where I can talk about the trilogy.
Sure.
First of all, this was written way before Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh,
But
yeah?
I did see that and I thought she's a shadowy kind of character like that. But so the names of the three books
They're great titles.
are all song titles. And when I wrote them, I didn't know all what I can tell you now. And again, I think this came from somewhere else. I'm not sure where it came from. First book is, as you know, Way Dead Upon the Suwannee River. Second book is She'll Be Killing Around the Mountain, which is set here in Asheville. And the third one is Michael, Row the Body Ashore.
That's great.
And that takes place on St. Helena Island, South Carolina. Now, I bet some of you, or many of you don't know this, but you know Stephen Foster wrote the song Way Down Upon the Suwannee River. You know, some of you probably know he never even saw the Suwannee River.
Oh,
He
really?
just made that up, made the river up because it fit with the song. And here's what I bet you don't know that blew my mind. The words, if you look at the words of the song, it's about a black slave who was pining over the happy days on the plantation. That's what the song's about.
Propaganda.
I know. So the second book, She'll Be Killing Around the Mountain, which I didn't know. The song is She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain is an original slave song about Jesus coming back at the end of time. And Jesus is coming back in a chariot. And so the she is the chariot that Jesus is driving to take people back to heaven.
Wow.
The third book, which really blew my mind when I started looking into these slave songs, is also a slave song that was written on St. Helena Island, where this the third book takes place. And I had no clue that this song was written there. So there's a lot of things that kind of came together that, in retrospect, just I don't know where it all came from, except that I have always loved the African American history. I used to teach, or back in the 70s, I taught Black history. I've always had an affinity for what the slaves went through. It's always been a big part of my heart. And somehow that has turned out to be a theme through the book. In this book, Voodoo Sally is my favorite character. I love her. I can't tell you too much about her except she's ridiculed. There's a lot of racism. This novel, this murder mystery, can be read in two ways. It's a fun read. It really is. It's light. It's fun. It's got a lot of twists and turns. But there's another deeper level to it, and it's about racism. It's about how we treat each other. It's even Brad learns some things about himself in the book. Second book, She'll Be Killing Around the Mountain, is about the preppers and people who believe it's the end of time, and everybody's getting ready for the return of something, which is the theme in the book. And of course, the third book too, that theme carries through of how we have come to treat each other. But on the surface, it's a whodunit, and it's a fun book. But I just wanted to tell you there's a second way to read it if you have the book and want to read it. So
Definitely, I can see that. So I wondered, did you have writers in your life at a young age that inspired you, or
are you
how did
kidding me?
was there a teacher at school, or like what even possessed you to do it, do you think?
I was just, it was intuitive. It was just a way to get away from the craziness. And for some reason, that's what it was. Some kids make model cars and, you've heard probably stories of people who just, for one reason or another, figure out a way to get through it.
Yeah.
And it was that, but no, I
Right.
didn't have any,
No.
as a young kid, none at all.
And what about authors that inspire you?
Oh, Mark
What-
Twain,
Mark Twain,
oh, all of his books,
incredible.
yeah.
Really, that's so, of course.
Yeah.
It's got to be that.
Huckleberry Finn.
Huckleberry
Tom
Finn.
Sawyer.
Yeah, I love those too. So the book is so visual when you guys read it. It's just, I could see it and I see why it makes such a great pilot. So it's a pilot right now. I'm very familiar with pilots. I've done many as an actor and as a producer too. And it's hard, you know, waiting to hear if it's going to be picked up or whatever. And so will you talk a little bit about, you know, did you always envision it as some kind of piece? Like there's also some, you know, some interest in doing it as a musical, which I can see as well. But when I did Balderdash, we actually saw it as a game show, right, as we were creating it, and we had a deal to make a game show out of it before the game was even made.
Yeah.
So it's funny, and I can see how, I was wondering if you had that intention, or was it part of the creative process for you to see it visually presented?
It was. I mean, I'm very visual, and you know, a lot of authors aren't. Pat Conroy is one who's been criticized for over writing, you know, purple writing, I think they call it. But I love writing the visual and creating the setting and creating the characters. And but so many people have told me it's so visual, they can actually see it and they can see how it would be a movie or a TV show or whatever. But that's just because that's how I like to write.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily thinking at the time that this is going to be a movie or a TV show, but we're hoping that it will be.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope so too. Everybody say your prayers. But it's interesting that just I can feel your love for nature and you know, and being in this town and seeing like the beautiful town you get to live in with all the nature around. And we were just in Greenville and like just the trees, and I love nature. I would say nature is kind of my church, and I can feel that in the book. That's what I love so much. And there is another passage. Let's see, the one that I loved, that where you talk a lot about it. We're going to skip. We're going to go to the one. It's the not the next one, but it's 122. It's actually when you're kayaking up to Gigi's. Is it there? Yeah. This one I could really just. You talk so much about. It's right here, starting right here. So, and we don't have to read it all, but this is such. The prose is so evocative of, you know, just the river being the character, and anyway, go ahead.
I'm gonna keep you around. Rain clouds lifted after a drenching downpour, unveiling a bruised magenta sky in a loafer's glory afternoon. After deciding to take the day off, I launched my yellow Carolina in front of my cabin and kayaked the Suwannee. I paddled toward Gigi's, a good 5 miles along the winding river's edge. I had to find out what she and her sister friends were up to. 3 men had died on their watch. I needed proof that my thinking was all wrong, that my imagination was running away with me. As my kayak glided through the water, I took in the neatly soundless beauty of the landscape, teeming with life. Creeping resurrection ferns unfolded in the tops of the live oaks. A mild breeze swept through the sable palms, nudging pungent river smells of breeding fish and yellow jasmine my way. Beards of Spanish moss dangling in sweet gums along the shore skimmed the water surface. I was captured by sounds of fish kerplopping and a strutting alabaster colored egret with its long stick-like neck lugging mouthfuls of fish for dinner. A flock of brown and ivory checkered limpkins swirling near the riverbank resemble broad strokes on an artist's palette. I stopped here and there to slosh the water, traipse the pristine white sandy beaches. I hunted for Indian art relics and fossils, discovered several arrowheads and what looked like an ancient hand axe. I felt like I was 6 again. While trudging the sandbars, I picked purple figs and wild southern grapes known as muscadines and scoopinongs and savored their tangy taste. It reminded me of the many boyhood hunts with Gigi, picking berries and fruits, making preserves from whole figs and thin lemon slices, and from the grape hulls and their simmered out pulp. Let's see. As I disembarked, I heard voices and froze, bracing myself against the cross ties to keep my balance. The wooden platform rumbled with heavy footsteps descending the boardwalk onto the dock. The timbers moaned and swayed gently until the tongue clatter, feet shuffling, and smack of sandals and flip-flops were directly overhead. I spread eagle on my back across the kayak, water sloshing the boat side to side. I could see the club sisters without them seeing me through a peephole worn into the wooden slats over time. When I looked up, I could see slices of the women dressed in tank tops, t-shirts, and cutoffs slouched in aluminum beach chairs above me.
Mhm. This is Frank. So I was wondering about, were you raised by women? Because you really write women so well, and there's so many interesting characters. Like there's a whole group of women that reminded me a little bit of the Yaya sisterhood.
Yeah.
You know, and they're really creative and they're crazy. My mother, I was raised by my mom was a triplet, so I was raised by three kind of crazy women. But these women are great, and they're very powerful. And I was wondering, were you raised? Did you have powerful women in your childhood and your boyhood the way you did?
I did not have powerful women, but I think that's what I wanted to have, powerful adults. But
Interesting.
no, and maybe that's part of the
It's
vision.
aspirational.
Yeah, aspirational.
It's interesting, right? To write, you write what you know, or write what you wish you knew, or write what you
Exactly.
wish you had. Yeah,
Right.
it's interesting. Same
Yeah.
with songwriting too. So we were going to talk a little bit more about the character of Brad and how it is like you and how he's different than you too. Can you talk a little bit more about? He's such a fascinating character.
Can I read that
Yeah.
one? There was one.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, there is a very interesting passage.
I don't know where it is.
Oh, what did you?
Because it kind of
Um,
sets up who he
yes,
is.
with the dad.
He grew up, of course, with an alcoholic dad, and that's my experience as well.
I think I might not have thought this one.
So,
Talk about it and I'll find it.
okay.
Yeah.
So there's a scene in here where he actually changes his name from Brad Pope. This is part of it, the rewrite. His dad named him, you found this out, Einstein, because his dad was a loser and hated himself, and he hated his kids, and he hated his wife, he hated life, he hated everything. And so he named him Einstein because he wanted to feel good about himself. And so Brad, as a kid, was made fun of for having that name. No kid wants to have the name Einstein.
Right. It goes with that theme too of like the slaves and you know, the racism and the bullying.
Yes, the
Bullying
bullying,
happens,
the bullying.
can happen
That's
in
right.
any way, and it's so damaging.
Yeah.
So this is the young Brad with his father. It starts right here. I sat on the,
Is that about?
yeah.
It
But
is.
you can
Okay.
cut to, it's him leading to that.
Okay.
It's kind of long. Should we start there? I'm sorry, let me just find it. Yeah, so he asks, gives him the, I don't know. With a dog, can you see it? Just getting our bearings here, because it's such a good passage, but
Here it is.
yeah, but it's before that, because you have to see what he said, that he has.
Okay. I just don't want to read too much.
I know.
I want
Oh,
you
here,
all to
right
stay
here.
awake.
So that's
Okay.
his saying, and he says this, the dad has this as kind of his saying.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Okay. When the shit hits the fan, you're gonna need more than a computer, he said. One day, strapping an AK-47 around my neck. Time for target practice, he proudly dubbed me as his bitty boy soldier, as if he were anointing a king. Most days, he took me in the backyard and made me shoot at cardboard boxes or human cutouts. I hated the weight of the assault rifle and the loud noise it made, but I did my best to make him cheer before the ringing in my ears would get so bad. I wouldn't fall asleep at night. But on this day, he sealed my hatred toward him for good. As I rounded the corner toward the shooting range, I heard the clanking of a metal chain, heard it stop. I can't see. I heard it snap tight against the rebar stake planted in the ground in the middle of the targets. On the end of the chain, a small dog wagging his tail looked at me with longing as though it had found a new best friend. My jaw dropped and moisture started to swell in my eyes. The mutt's white fur was matted and dirty, but after a proper bath, he'd be as good as new. Tears wouldn't stop coming, not because of the false hope of a new pet, because I knew who my father was. Don't be such a fucking pussy, he said, taking a swig from his beer bottle. You don't even know the damn thing. I looked back at him. Please don't make me do it, Daddy. Quit your fucking whining. I can't. Daddy put his hand on the AK-47, pinned it to my chest, and knelt down, meeting my face with his. One of the darkest moments of my life was one of the few times I felt a shred of warmth from my father. Listen to me, he said in the softest tone. One day, when you're all grown up, you're going to have a family of your own, and they're going to look to you. They're going to depend on you to protect them, to provide. They're going to need a man, a real man, to carry them through the storm. And when the zombies come to take all you got, when the hordes come through your front door, you're going to be ready to do whatever it takes for your family. You understand me, son? Panic put me at a loss of words. I thought, let the zombies take me. Daddy let go of the rifle, grabbed me by the shoulders, and marched me into position, looking right at the dog, his tail wagging with joy. All I wanted to do was unchain him and let him jump into my arms. Daddy racked the bolt back on the rifle and planted the stock into my arms. Teardrops streamed down my cheeks. Everything was so blurry, I couldn't even see straight. Go on now. Show me you know how to be a man. My finger trembled against the trigger. The barrel of the rifle swayed back and forth, my belly quaking underneath my shirt. I looked back at Daddy with one final plea in my eyes. Don't make me. He already had his .38 special out of the holster and at his side. The pin was drawn back and his finger was on the trigger. He knew who I was too. I looked back at the dog. Clearly sensing my trauma, he stared at me, wagging his tail, waiting for me to pet him. Ain't it so, boy? Ain't it so? Echoing in my brain. I shut my eyelids tight and squeezed the trigger.
Yeah, I can see, I can see, you know, why he stayed away and why he's back.
Yeah.
To make peace with this, you know, the stress and the horror of that childhood, and that character really comes to life. But he's the antagonist to Brad,
That's
right?
That's right.
So
I want to say that,
yeah.
of course, is fiction, but you can't compare pain
Right.
because when you grow up in a home where you don't have stable parents,
Mhm.
you just can't compare the pain. But I wanted something that people could really understand what it's like. And so I didn't have that scenario, but
Right.
I had others that were just as bad.
In a way, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't have, and that's interesting because it pulls your whole career of being a
Yeah.
psychiatrist and hearing people's stories and
A
just
psychologist.
psychologist and just all the stories of all the pain. Like there's so much pain in people's childhoods, especially that's unresolved and affects them, and it takes years to process. But it doesn't, like you said, it could be, you know, how do you rate pain, right?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
that, you know, books and movies and things have to be heightened, right?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty heightened one. I almost didn't read when I read that, I kind of skipped because I'm so
It was hard.
such a,
I had a hard time getting through that just then. It was
Yeah.
hard for me to read.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know,
No,
but
no.
I thought it was a really important kind of crucial thing. And to go to something lighter, I was thinking
Before
like,
you do that, I wanted to say, you and I talked about this
Yeah.
earlier. When I first started writing, I could not write stuff like that because I try to help people.
Yeah.
So my tagline is I heal by day and I kill by night. But I had
Right?
trouble doing the killing because
Yes.
I didn't want to hurt these people, especially that
characters.
precious little boy.
Yes.
But I had to learn that that's what we have to have the other. It's, you can't have a front without a back.
Right.
And so I had to learn to really write that way in order to make it compelling, really, and to have a resolution at some point.
Yes, exactly. You get to the resolution.
Yeah.
And it's, when you have from oh God to thank God, like something terrible happens and thank God it did it because it made him who he is.
Yeah.
And then he reconnects with his grandmother. And there's so much. What do you think, like, is there anything special you want to talk about, like what people would love about this book? What are people telling you that they love so much?
Well, they love Gigi.
Yeah,
And
that's his grandmother.
The grandmother,
Who
because
kind of raised him, but then also abandoned him in some way too.
yeah, her index finger's missing because she blew it off with a shotgun accidentally. And so she uses her
As it
middle
happens.
finger. And all the church people think she's giving them the finger. And then Voodoo Sally is my favorite character because she's not who you think she is. And
yeah, she's really got a lot of heart and
yeah,
a lot of depth and a lot of mystery.
yeah.
Yeah.
Diana Ross's daughter, by the way, plays Voodoo Sally in the pilot.
Oh my God, I
Rhonda
didn't know
Ross,
that.
yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. There's a photo we're gonna have at the, you have it
that's right.
at the venue. Everybody's invited. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
I don't know what time it is. We could go on and on. I don't want
I
to.
think we're gonna have to take questions.
Oh, we do. We're actually on time.
Everybody gets a ticket to
Yeah.
Citizen Vinyl, which is a jazz club. There's a free bar. It's a buffet and a cash bar. And Laura is going to sing her original music. She has a beautiful voice, and so she'll be singing. And Michael John Jazz is going to be playing.
It's
So
gonna be a fun
it's going to be fun.
celebration.
Everybody get one of these.
And the
Yeah.
scissor wheel.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark, this is Mark Ettinger. And I don't know what else to say about you except you're incredible.
Oh, that's my husband.
He's got the sizzle reel for the pilot that's going to be playing apparently
Yeah.
in the background somewhere.
Can't wait to see that.
Me too.
And so we're gonna open it up to the audience for questions if anybody's.
Robin?
Let me see.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I read Limestone Gumption,
Yeah.
and tell me how they're related, what's happening here, because everything you read, not everything, I just don't remember the dogs.
Well,
Yeah, I skipped over that.
well, that wasn't in there. That
Okay,
wasn't
that's
in the
fine.
original. There's a lot more scenarios about his relationship with his father that was not in there to begin with. There are 4 or 5 additional chapters. The ending is different.
Okay, I gotta read this one.
The ending is different, so that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay,
But
so
there's
you
a
took
lot
the-
of,
You took the basics of it and then.
yeah,
Okay, right.
yeah, and I'm glad you asked that because a lot of people ask, what's the difference?
Yeah.
But it's pretty much a different book, actually, with same characters though.
Yeah.
But some of the characters are embellished that were not in the original.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a reminder to repeat the question.
Oh, thank you.
So at the end, you can just say what you were answering there, just in case they couldn't hear.
Okay. She was asking, what is the difference between the first Limestone Gumption, which didn't really go far because the publisher went belly up, and this one, and they have the same characters. There's similar events that happen, but this is there's a lot more twists and turns, more chapters, and more about his childhood. So somebody, Nick?
So, well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on inventing a new verb. I think it was kerplopping.
I don't know.
Really great, really great. It's beautiful. Anyway, as a fellow writer, I always ask other writers what their discipline is. In other words, how do you write the words? Do you write every day? Do you write at a certain time every day? Do you write regardless of what you're feeling and whether you don't want to write, you still write? I mean, all those kinds of things that go into writing would sometimes drive us nuts.
Yes. Well, it's kind of like if
Wait, you have to repeat that question.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. So he's asking, what is,
So just say, that was a process.
so what's my process? what's my writing regimen? And I always think of, if you're a firefighter, you go to work and you firefight. If you're a teacher, you're a teacher. If you're a doctor, you see people every day. And so if you're a writer, you write every day. I mean, that's what writers are supposed to do. That's what real writers do. They don't just write when they feel like it or when. So yeah, you get up, I get up, but I love writing. I love it. So I don't. It's not work to me. It's play. And so I write every day. I write for Forbes, or I'm working on the third novel. I'm also working on a stage musical version of Limestone Gumption with Abby Felder, and I think she's here. She's going to talk a little bit more about the stage version that hopefully is going to run. But it's really the lighthearted part of Limestone Gumption, and it's going to be a musical, and kind of like Hedwig and the Angry Inch with audience participation. It's going to be fun. But I write every day, and there's no have to. It's I want to.
Is there a word count that you aim for?
Never.
Some writers do, you
Yeah.
gotta write, 3,000 words a day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What's
no,
the
I don't do
average
it.
amount of time you would spend in a writing session?
Oh,
Because you have a full practice
At least-
too. So when
well,
do you-
no, my practice is about 2 days a week.
Okay.
So I have a lot of extra time now that I didn't used to
Oh,
have
that's great.
to give a tribute to this. So I would say 5 hours.
Awesome.
Sometimes I don't even want to go to the bathroom or eat because I get so, obsessed maybe. I don't know, but I love it.
My husband tells this story, and I'm probably going to paraphrase it and I'll make it short, but who's the writer?
Russell Baker.
Russell Baker. So Mark's father was a writer, and he wrote Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. He wrote Shirley Temple movies. He wrote Broadway plays, but he knew this writer, and he said, somebody asked him too what his process was, and he said, I have exactly the same thing. I'm at my kitchen table. I brew a hot pot of coffee. I write with a pen and paper, and I have my ream of certain kind of paper and my pen, and I get everything. The light is perfectly coming in through my window, and I sit down at the page, and then and only then do I defrost the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Right?
Or rearrange your spice rack. Yeah. Or
You
balance your
think of
checkbook.
anything, but not you. That's why I'm so fascinated by you, because he really honestly loves
Yeah.
to do it, and it doesn't chase you away.
No, I can't wait. Usually.
Amazing. It's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to my desk. And I've got 3
That's awesome.
screens now that.
I see, you've got a whole setup
I
there.
don't
Got
know
some
how I
good,
could have
some
done it before.
good IT guy. Is there another question?
Yes.
Excuse me, probably another process question, but I'm just curious about your character development, and is it something where you just sit and write and let the character develop itself, or do you plan it ahead of time?
So she's asking about character development. If it just happens, or do I sit and think about it and make it happen? Is that?
Yeah, like, creating the character first and then
Oh.
writing your story, or is it you kind of write and let it develop itself?
Oh, she's asking if I create the characters first, or do I let it write itself and they just appear? And well, they just come to me. I don't think ahead. I just it just all comes to me. And it's kind of like a big puzzle. And I'll start off. I knew I wanted to write this book because Jamie and we had a house on the Suwannee River. And all the river dwellers every night would sit around a campfire and talk about these people going cave diving without the right equipment and getting stuck and lost, and talk about how they died. And I'll never forget when I finally decided I've got to write this, is we're sitting there and there's the shadows of everybody around the fire were dancing like ghosts on the white sand. And it just hit me. I've got a story. I knew how it was going to start. I didn't know where it was going to go because I'm a pantser. I'm not what's the other one? No, plotter. Yeah, I'm
What's
not a
the first
plotter.
one?
You can be a plotter. That's where you plan everything out. Or a pantser is just you start writing and let the characters write the book. And that's what I do. And sometimes I'm surprised at what happens. I think, are you kidding me? And they just come in and make decisions about what's supposed to happen. That's what makes it fun, though.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like channeling or something
Exactly.
too, and you're working
Yeah.
with, things
Grab
coming in.
hope
Yeah,
out of the
incredible.
ethers, yeah.
Do you have another question?
So you mentioned at the beginning that you draw inspiration from your parts.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if there's a character in your book that is one of your parts' ultimate desire to live in the world? Like, do one of your parts get to kick ass as a character?
Yes. Yes. I won't tell you who, but there is, and there are also characters in there, antagonists who make me want to kick their ass or make the character want to kick their ass. Yeah.
That's true.
From the at-home audience, you just answered this question about, they asked if you outline, and I think you answered that with the.
No, I don't
plans-
outline.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
pantser versus
Right.
plotter, right? You're by the seat of the pants, so no
Yes.
outline.
See the pants. Okay, I get it now.
And then, yes, that's where that.
That's
Somebody
like,
wearing
Yeah.
pants or no
flat
pants?
outward, Right. And then, so, then we have another one, which is when your, and you don't need to repeat me, I'm
Okay.
yelling for the folks at home. When your original version didn't go anywhere, how hard was it to find a publisher that would take this journey with you again? when we release it?
well, I had to find an agent. Yeah, it's almost impossible to publish nowadays without an agent, and that's when Dean came into my life, and he's the one who sold the books, the trilogy, or well, it will be a trilogy, hopefully. But yeah, there's no way I could have, I don't remember how we met, but somewhere along the way, a lot of people don't know that getting an agent sometimes is harder than getting an editor for in a
Queries,
publisher.
yeah.
Oh, a lot of agents, you have to get through that first hurdle, but it's worth it because you can't do the writing and the promoting and the selling. You just can't. It's impossible.
Not when you're writing 27 stories a month. But no, this story really deserved to find the light of day and have a lot of eyes on it. And I can, do we have any more questions or Monica? Yes.
I have a question.
Oh dear. This woman
Yeah.
is one of the actors in the Limestone Gumption. She plays Myrtle. And if you don't know who Myrtle is, her last name is Badger. That'll give you an idea
A
of
little
the character.
typecasting. That wasn't my question. It wasn't even about that. And I now have completely forgotten a brilliant question. I'll come up with some.
By the
Oh.
way, she wrote All Dogs Go to Heaven, the movie.
Yeah.
If you see it, yeah.
All your children have seen it, you've seen it.
And a nonfiction called Oops, I Forgot to Save Money,
Yeah.
which is a good one for people too. Right? I love that title.
That's because I'm an actress.
But now you
and a
do
writer.
say.
But that's not about me. Brian,
Yes, darling.
okay, so seriously, out in your day, because you do so much, I mean, you are a workaholic because you love, I mean, when I say workaholic, I don't mean it as a bad thing. Yeah, chained to desk, but you are not chained to desk. This is your happy place.
That's right.
And so my question is, do you have a specific, do you show up at your desk every day at a certain time? And because you have a lot going on, do you compartmentalize, speaking of parts, the parts of your work? Do you have sort of an order of that, or is it just the muse that takes you?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I don't have to be at my desk at a certain time. I get there when I feel like I want to be there. And sometimes I can't wait because I have an idea, and so I just hurry up and get there. And some days I don't, and I just take my time. So it really depends. But I do have, my life is kind of compartmentalized, but the difference now in terms of workaholism is workaholics are driven. That means either somebody outside them, a boss or a job, is driving them, and they have to, or that voice in their head is driving them. And I don't have that anymore. That's how I used to live. I feel drawn instead of driven. So it's different, and it's fun, and I want to, and I get to, not I have to.
I see that in you.
And yeah,
You also have a partner who feeds you,
yes, it does.
as do I.
Not just
And-
food, but
No, and I meant it in the grand macro of all
I
of
know.
that. How important that is, that there's a partner to support you in every way, but also to provide you with food when you forget to eat.
that's right.
That's very true. And I have some other friends that are writers that are alone and don't write as much because if they have other, let's say, day jobs, I'm thinking of one in particular who works all day, and then when she's like wants to go write, she's like feels a little sorry for herself and she's got to make her own dinner, so she distracts herself. And there's so many distractions. How do you stay away from the distractions of, you don't do like, scrolling or any of that
Oh my
stuff,
God,
right?
no.
I
If I
know,
did that, I wouldn't get anything
you can, I
done.
know, right,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm
Yeah.
taking a note.
Yeah,
It's good.
no, I don't do that. I don't do that. I'd like, can we take one more question if we
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
one?
we started a little bit late, so one more.
Okay.
One more, has anybody got a question?
Oh, there's one over there.
Oh,
Is the
yeah.
experience of writing for Forbes different for you than the experience of writing a novel?
Yes,
Contrast those
it is.
two, you have to repeat.
Could you
The-
repeat that one just in case? The other
Yeah.
ones were closer, but that's.
Okay, the question is my experience of writing for Forbes different from writing fiction? It is, but there are a lot of overlaps. That's why I love it. I know if you think about Forbes, it can sound kind of dry, but I get to write, they let me write whatever I want as long as I have to stay in my lane. But I get to write, I have these ideas about things that are happening in the news, like, well, I better not say what. I have to be real careful because I do represent them and they've told me we all have to, I can't pick my nose in public and scratch my butt. So, but the creative part, I guess, is the common ground, because even with Forbes, I get to choose the photographs I want to use. Of course, an editor looks at all this, but I get to use anecdotes in my own personal life. And it's creative in how you put it together, because you want it to, you're paid by how many people click on your story. And so you want to make it interesting and compelling, but it has to be factual. It can't be my opinion. So
What's your lane?
mental health.
Okay, thank you.
Mental health.
They sought me out. I didn't seek them out, but writing mental health and work-life balance and overworking, a lot of the issues that are in the news today. So.
Guess that about wraps it up. We just want to give you our cheer and our congratulations, and may this book find
Yes.
tons of readers and viewers, hopefully. And I hope you guys all come to the after party.
Right.
Congratulations, Brian.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.